Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of a Frugal Athlete podcast. Today, we got a very special guest, someone that I've been able to get in touch with recently, but I feel like we've known each other for way longer than that. The sports business, athlete empowerment world is very small and everyone's really connected. But today, we got Julian Aiken on the podcast. We're going to learn all about his story, all about all the wonderful things that he's doing, and everything you need to know from his lens on how to kind of master this new landscape as an athlete. So, Julian, thank you so much for taking the time.
Appreciate it, Amobi. Thank you for having me on here.
Real quick, give us some background. Obviously, you're well connected in the space, but I feel like you're like a silent assassin. You like to go about it, behind the scenes.
Yeah, for sure. I always had a dream to obviously Worldwide West is from New Jersey. I loved his approach to how he operated in the sports world. Had a ton of power. Obviously, I don't have that power as of yet, but I thought silence in his approach was really, really strong because you never knew what he was involved in, what he wasn't involved in, so he could kind of make whatever moves that he wanted. So I learned from that kind of the strength in silence to kind of play my role in the background. But come from a family of hoopers. My dad went to UConn. He ran track there. My mom did gymnastics there. So I come from a pedigree of athletes. I got two other brothers. My brother Bryce plays at Seton Hall, went to Harvard. I myself played at Assumption, D2. We're all full scholarship athletes. And then my older brother Kyle, really one of my bigger role models, played at Lincoln and HBCU. So we got a good mix in terms of different levels of basketball. So we started off there. I think, kind of how I started off in the sports world was really in an informal way for a very long time. I was always around my younger brother. He played for PSA Cardinals with Coach Munch Williams. And I was kind of de facto to kind of look out, make sure everybody was straight. I was always at the tournaments. And I kind of started to kind of gain trust around players that at the time, nobody knew were going to, become, I think Bryce played with 4 NBA players on his team. But, these are the guys that were in my living room playing 2K. And we were all just kids. And things happen.
Talk about that real quick. Talk about that real quick, because we obviously have NIL. We have like high school athletes are considered pros now. The way that like with Overtime and Bleacher Report and all these different platforms that are showcasing these players at a young age, and I feel like you were on the cusp of that, like right when it was starting to turn. So talk about that, like seeing your brother and his classmates and peers and teammates kind of get that notoriety at an early age.
Yeah, I think it was kind of crazy, to be honest. And back then, nobody really knew what was going on. Everyone was trying to get to college, get a free scholarship, get a full ride. And, I think as they started to get a little bit older, it's crazy how touted some of these athletes are, like 6th grade, 7th grade. Next thing you know, they're surrounded by tons of people, scouts. And when you're in the know, like, the agents won't be around, but there's people watching that are important people at a really, really young age at some of these tournaments. So seeing them grow, at that level, he started off with KYDA. Faces it was one of his first programs out of Newark, New Jersey. But Oz Cross, which is he's a very known guy in the New York sports world. They started off at KYDA. Him, Temple Gibbs, Isaiah Briscoe was over there, and Nazir Barino. Some real young guys that started off, and he kind of branched off and went to PSA, which is obviously a Nike program back then. It was Team Scan. And, he was playing with guys like Ty Jerome, Mo Bamba, Omari Spellman, Check Diallo, Thomas Bryant, that, were like, back then, they're tall, lanky kids. Like, you don't really know what they're doing. They're figuring it out. They're 6'8", 6'9" at a really young age. And, when it hit like 14, 15, you really started to see it take off. And I was at these tournaments sitting down, and obviously these coaches are trying to talk to me. Sometimes I'm just around them. So it's like, oh, who's this? Yeah. I look just like Bryce. We're both small, light-skinned guys. So they figure, oh, that's got to be his brother. And, I'm seeing some of these guys. I'm 17, 18. I'm hooping. I know probably, hey, Kentucky might not be for me. But it was really, really crazy to be able to meet some of these coaches, even get phone calls to my house, from coaches from Duke, Kentucky, Miami, seeing these coaches that I've always looked at and seeing, hey, these same kids that were in my living room that we're going back and playing 2K are the same guys now. I Googled them, they're everywhere. So I think that was a really, really big thing for me, is kind of seeing their explosion, seeing how, obviously at that time, I really thought they were being exploited, because I knew in the background, hey, these tournaments are making money. These brands are making money. That's why they're so interested in them. But back then, they really couldn't get anything from it. Even when they went to college, they couldn't really benefit off their name. So I think that's why myself I've been so passionate about these kind of athletes because I see, that the power that they hold, but they really weren't able to attain or make any money off that. Just because they had a huge name didn't mean that they were going home to some luxurious lifestyle. We were riding the tournaments sometimes in an excursion with 12 players.
Yeah.
So it's crazy,
So let's talk about it real quick, because obviously you named a lot of influential people both in the NBA and the basketball world. You're from Jersey, South Jersey, North Jersey. I don't want to get in trouble because I lived in Philly.
North
I know
Jersey.
you gotta decipher it. All right, so North Jersey. Early
Yep.
on, you said one of your inspirations or like role models is Worldwide West. And for the folks that don't know Worldwide West, do you mind giving us like a quick description of who he is and how it's kind of led you into what you're doing?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, you would just hear about Worldwide West in the tri-state very heavily. Obviously, he's very connected in the space, has worked with a few different agencies, and now is working with the New York Knicks. But I always looked at him and kind of knew him to be a chess maker. You heard these different plays, people going here, playing for these teams, and when you saw him, he was kind of like a ghost. But like a lot of people wouldn't even know he was there because they didn't know what he looked like. But I got in touch with the right people to find out what he actually looked like. And was a really, really strong Black man that was getting a lot of things done at the time when a lot weren't. So obviously he's grown to be a GM, but I really don't know how to explain what he did. It's kind of like that, the Black hand of the Godfather.
We like to call him like he's like a deal maker, facilitator. And the reason why I asked it, because I feel like it's leading to how you're kind of telling the progression of your journey in your career. You talked about these big brands, these big colleges, these big organizations kind of making money, and unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, exploiting these young kids, whether at the high school level, collegiate level, and even pro level. Talk about ways an athlete can learn to build trust, because initially these people were coming to you because they know you had trust within the people that they were trying to reach. So what are some things that like red flags to look out for, like questions that we can ask to make sure that, all right, this might be something we want to steer away from, or all right, they have my intentions at heart, different things like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you were to get injured and never be able to play basketball a day in your life, the person that you're taking advice from or is cutting deals for you or is having conversations, would they still be around you?
Ooh.
If the answer is no, then
right into it. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is do they really love you for what you can do and who you can potentially be, or do they love you? So I think that's a really, really big portion of it, is to figure out and kind of evaluate your circle. As you grow super fast, the next thing you know, your circle could change just because of the circumstances that you're in. You're in another tier of life. You're another tier of an athlete. So really evaluate that circle. Find someone at an early age, that you really can trust. One thing that I say is, hey, anything can be learned. Find someone that's really willing to learn, that's really willing to commit to your career. And hey, you don't have to be a master of all. Just be a master at this one thing for me, and make sure that you can evaluate the people that are around us. So if you could find one person, whether it's a parent, a brother, a coach, that really, really has your best interest in heart, make sure that you have somebody that can focus on that for you. Because when you're young, you're only focusing on the sport. You don't really know the business side of it. And when it comes, it comes.
Yeah, that's a bar right there. And I feel like it's an honest question that either as athletes we're too afraid to ask because it's like it puts things into perspective, or we don't even have the foresight because we're so focused on the sport. So I appreciate you just being so cutthroat with it. So let's get back into your journey. You talked about, you went to school, you had a great career. Now you're graduated. How did you get into the sports business space and like now with Power Forward?
Yeah, for sure. Just to run it back, I'm a very, very humble guy. I don't talk about my basketball skills too much, but I did lead the state of New Jersey in scoring my senior
Let them know, man. Let them know.
I have averaged 29 a game. I can't hoop now, can barely run, but I got it in. But in terms of how I got into sports, when I had graduated college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a couple good role models around me that actually got me into the tech world. I always knew that I wanted to be in some sort of sales. From that standpoint. But at the same time, I always have my love for sports, wanted to be in the business of sports and figuring out how to get into it. Didn't really have that many, thoughts in terms of what I wanted to do. Had some friends that, have really been successful in agencies. Saw kind of that lifestyle, how you had to bounce around a lot. Didn't think at the current time that was for me. I didn't want to be all over the place. I kind of wanted to figure out a career that I knew that, okay, great, I'm going to be able to build and really have something to hold my family down and to grow off. So give it a year or two. I started working with a couple of different guys, cutting different deals off, just in terms of, obviously where I was at. I think one good thing that, kind of happened to, happen overall is a lot of the people that were around me grew up to be in the NBA. My brother, his best friend, happens to be Kyrie. So I was able to see, never did anything in business capacity with them, but see how they were operating, how tight of a ship it was, how the people around him operated and who they were connected with, how they approach different situations. So started getting a couple of different deals, got some deals with Uninterrupted for a couple of guys that I'm close with, Body Armor, started looking at some different deals. Okay, great. Got some partnerships lined up to kind of figure out, okay, this is where I can get my feet wet. After that, fast forward 3 or 4 years, started working with Alonzo Trier, who had me really doing a lot of day-to-day stuff for him, building that out. And I think with that, he exposed me to a lot of what a top tier athlete is. In terms of him going undrafted, getting to a place with the New York Knicks where I thought he should have made the all rookie team. He averaged 12 points, but really exploded in being able to see that growth and kind of what came with that, what was around, how fast things move. It was definitely a learning experience for me in terms of kind of how that life is. And then power forward, really funny story around that. Our COO, Alan Finn, I actually worked with him at one of the tech firms that I've worked with. Me and Alan were, pretty friendly back then. Never really discussed getting into sports business or any type of business together. Obviously, our CEO, Luke Bonner, I've known him, from a distance because, his brother, Matt Bonner, I was always familiar with him, in the league. And they had started now it's been 2 years, so the summer of 2020, and had been contacted back then by Mo to join this company. He was serving as an advisor for them. He had invested in them. He said, it's the perfect mix. You obviously have the tech background. What I do, kind of in my day-to-day, very used to closing enterprise level deals and market level deals with tech firms. And he said, this is like a perfect thing. This is can kind of be your springboard to get into sports. So I kind of brushed it off. I was like, you know what I mean? I was real busy, caught up in what I was doing. I was out in Arizona with Zoe. Got back to Boston. He called me again, FaceTime me. I'm like, what's going on? I figured he was in the city or something like that. He was like, I need you to make this move for me. Like what they have going on is really, really aligned with what you kind of represent in terms of empowering athletes. So I heard that. I said, okay, let me take a look at this. Next thing I know, I end up at a dinner with Luke and Alan. Talked to Greer. Greer's he runs Mo's ship. A really, really, really intelligent guy with a private equity background. So I took a look at it. I honestly fell in love with what they were doing. And the role that they wanted me to kind of serve as an advisor for them would be to handle, their athletes. And I thought this is the perfect thing for me to kind of sprout my, I would say get my feet wet in an official capacity in working with athletes. And with that, started bringing on different athletes in terms of what we were looking at. Work with over now 200 athletes that we've brought on between the NBA, WNBA, NFL, collegiate. We've got some great partnerships in place, with Wasserman, BDA, Excel, Priority Sports, things of that nature, and work with a couple of their athletes. So it's been a great experience.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Frugal Athlete Podcast. Today, we got a very special guest, someone that I recently met, but I feel like I've known for quite some time just because of our connections in the sports business space. Julian Aiken. He currently is with Power Forward. He's what I like to call a facilitator, someone that can connect a lot of different things and make things happen. So, Julian, how are you doing today?
Doing well. I'm doing well. How about yourself, Moby?
Nah, doing well. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for your patience, because we've been trying to get this done for a while, and technical difficulties have tried to make us not perform, but we still getting this done. So appreciate you first and foremost.
Thank you for having me on. Proceed and progress as always.
All right, let's go. Let's go. So real quick, give us your background.
Yeah, I mean, I hail from New Jersey. I come from a hoop family.
What? I know there's two different New Jerseys. There's three different New Jerseys. Which part?
North Jersey, the only part that matters.
The only part that matters. Okay, cool.
So I mean, from that, been around the sports world for quite some time. I come from a family of hoopers. My dad went to UConn and ran track there. My mom went there and did gymnastics. Got two brothers that hooped. I played Division II basketball myself. Back in another life, I led the state in New Jersey of scoring with a 30 clip every game. So I got a little skill to myself. Don't hoop anymore, but my brother Bryce, he currently hoops at Seton Hall. Formerly, I played at Harvard. He graduated from there, got his degree. And then my older brother Kyle, which is pretty much my biggest mentor, went to Lincoln University at HBCU. So we're well versed in terms of the hoop world as well as different levels of academia.
Oh, that's amazing. So talk about your experience, in college. Even though it was D2, you're playing at a high rate, leading the state in scoring. Did you ever think about pursuing, possibly going overseas or trying to do like kind of like some of the players in the NBA now where, they come from smaller schools and pursue that?
No, honestly, I had a moment of realization when actually I used to work out with my younger brother's AAU team, formerly Team Scan, now PSA Cardinals. I was 18. I was going to Assumption. I had already signed my scholarship, so I was good to go. And I went to one of his practices. They were now 3 or 4 years younger than me. And it was actually the first time I had met Mo Bamba. I think he was 13. And I realized that my jumper wasn't the best. But I pretty much gotten exposed for about an hour and a half, 2 hours by some high-level 8th graders and freshmen. And that was when, I kind of walked out of that gym to say, hey, I'm definitely going to work in the sports world. But in terms of professional, I would never step on an NBA court or overseas. It's not for me. I'm only 5'11". My jumper's shaky. So it got real then. But I think when I went to college, went to Assumption College. I was exposed to a lot of different avenues and things in terms of what I could have done. Fell in love with tech while I was up there. Fell in love with sales. I always thought I was going to be a good salesman, and decided to hop into the tech world as well.
I love that. So talk about some of the skill sets that you learned from athletics that you translated over to the stuff that you do now with tech sales, enterprise. Like it takes a real mature guy to understand, like, I might not go pro, even though I'm playing at a high level. I'm leading leading the state in scoring, but still, like, this may not be for me, because a lot of athletes, as you know, struggle with that transition. So talk about like some of the skill sets that we have that will help us, be successful like you have in other lanes.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing was obviously the dedication to the grind, just having a different definition of hard work. And when I say that, really, really being committed to a goal and backtracking and reverse engineering from that. Athletes really have that. If you've played even Division III or Division II, Division I, I guarantee the skill sets that, obviously that you won't even realize that you have, waking up early, going to practices, doing things that you don't want to do and doing them at a high level. those are the types of things that I transitioned over, to my career as well as working in sports now. It's just having that grind there, having that craft, being really process oriented. And at the same time, I think a big thing that I've been able to do, and I've also helped a lot of athletes get into tech, get into sports, find their lanes, is just realizing your strengths, come into reality. Hey, you might not have been able to play in the NBA. You might not be able to, go to the NFL, whatever it may be. But a lot of our teammates and colleagues, friends, whatever you want to call them, that we grew up with, a lot of them went to great colleges where people get into other lanes where you can make millions of dollars if you hit the jackpot in those lanes, if you can make a really good living. It's just so being able to identify that pretty early and just be realistic with yourself in terms of what lane you could potentially fit in, what strengths that those are, was something that I caught on pretty early.
That's what it's all about. And you talked about, being like, there's power in proximity. You come in from a basketball family, your older brother's done well, you've done well, your younger brother's doing well. And then you talk about, kind of the relationship that you built through that. Talk about it. We talked offline a little bit about, what it's like to be elite at that young age. And like, what are some things that we need to look out for, how to deal with like some of the relationships that, you talked about earlier?
Yeah, for sure. So my younger brother, he played with PSA Cardinals when he was younger. He also played with KYDA with Coach Oz Cross over there. But his career really exploded when he started playing with the PSA Cardinals with Munch Williams. And when he was on that team, he was exposed to playing with guys that back then were just kids. There was with my brother's friends, their teammates. A lot of them guys like Ty Jerome, Chuck Diallo, Mo Bamba, Cole Anthony, Thomas Bryant, they grew up to be NBA players that now I go and watch them play and people are yelling at them, going crazy in the crowd. And it's almost like funny to see that these are the same guys that we were on the couch playing 2K with when they were 13, 14. We were going to head down to Neptune to a tournament or something of that nature. So it's pretty crazy. But I think, a lot of what you need to do is, number one, at this age now and in this day and age, with social media and just the attention that players can garner so young, guys will be hawked down at 12 years old if they're good enough, or if they're showing enough potential. So some different things that I think I saw, and, I was kind of seen as that big brother, was always around the team, responsible. I was going to play basketball in college myself, had a lot of friends my age that went high major, somewhere in the NBA now as well. So I was pretty well versed, had a decent head on my shoulders in terms of steering, the younger guys what to do. And it's really just about identifying who's around you. And one quote that I always like to take a look at and kind of preach to guys is, hey, you're going to need a medium, whether that's going to be your mom or dad, whether that's going to be an older brother, whether that's going to be a coach, high school coach, AU coach, whoever it may be. You're going to need someone to field everything that's coming in, because you hit a certain level, it's coming in. A lot of things are going to come, colleges, other schools, prep schools, brands. It happens fast. And I think the biggest thing that I preach to guys is you want your right hand to be someone, ask yourself the question, if you were to break your leg or break your back and never be able to play basketball again, does that person still love you? Or are they still going to help you out now to find a different lane that might not be as profitable, that might not be as sexy? And I think that's a really good way to evaluate your circle, is to make sure whoever is handling those types of things for you is going to be there, whether it's obviously sunny outside and you're getting picked, in the top 5 in the draft, or if you got to settle for a D2 or a D3 school and you might be going to look for an accounting job, make sure that person is still going to be there for you, because if not, hard times will come. So you just want to make sure that you're aligned with the right people that really have love for you and care about you.
Most definitely. That's what it's all about. You talk about like you're being so cutthroat with it, and we need that as athletes, because sometimes we're so like locked in on like, oh, I need to be a pro, we'll figure that out later. Or you don't want to come to terms with like, that's a serious question, like, what do they love me, like if I'm not performing, or if I'm not doing well, if I get injured. So you gotta be open, honest, and transparent as an athlete to ask those questions, to make sure that you're protecting yourself not only while you're playing but after you're done playing, because as we all know, sports is going to end at some point. So let's talk about your role with Power Forward, how it came about, and what you guys are currently doing.
Yeah, so with Power Forward, I'm currently sitting as an advisor handling all of our athlete relations.
And what is Power Forward exactly? Sorry.
Yeah, so Power Forward, essentially what we are, we're a platform to help different players, whether you're in the NCAA, whether you're in the NBA, NFL, all athletes, men and women. What we do is we essentially handle all of their branding. in terms of any apparel that they put out. That's kind of how we started, is we wanted to be that arm, kind of that connection for the 99% of athletes that don't have huge teams around them, to really be able to kind of show their creative side, be able to sell merch for them, apparel, different experiences and things of that nature. Now we've also moved in, or haven't announced it yet, but are moving into the Web3 and NFT space. And the reason behind that is we want to make sure that we can really be a service, that's trusted by, all the major sports and talent agencies, as well as, really large athletes. Our, strategic advisors are Mo Bamba, Suber, Taco, Brianna Stewart. So we work with athletes of, obviously from the top down. And we want to make sure kind of our NFT and Web3 approach around that is that we're able to continue to, kind of have a recurring revenue stream for those athletes that they truly own. And obviously their most remnant asset is their audience and their crowd.
Oh, that's what it's all about. So how did that come about for you? Obviously, you're a sports business expert. I consider you like one of the facilitators in the space. But for the people that are interested, they know they're not going to go pro and they're looking to get into the sports industry. How did it come about for you?
Yeah. So with the sports stuff, I like to obviously, as we had talked about offline, kind of compare myself to World Wide West, and that's definitely, being a Jersey guy.
From William Wesley. You can never check me.
He's someone that I've always taken a look at, being a Jersey guy. Obviously he's someone that connects the dots, and I've always seen myself as someone that's been able to do that as well. So power forward, learned about it back in 2020, the summer of it. At that time, I was currently out in Arizona with Alonzo Trier in his camp, handling a lot of the day-to-day stuff back then. So with that, Mo obviously has played with my brother. I've known Mo probably since he was 11. I actually saw him the first time he walked in the PSA's gym. He was terrible. I was clearly the script is completely flipped, because he's getting 30s in the league. This contract year, I'm expecting him to get a nice little payday for obviously all of his hard work. But he had reached out. He had mentioned that he was serving as an advisor. For all those that don't know, Mo is obviously a very, very talented athlete, but off the court, probably one of the smartest athletes I've ever met. Extremely, extremely impressive in terms of the mind he has. And he said, "Hey, I'm hopping on board and investing in this company called Power Forward. You should take a look at it." One of the co-founders of Power Forward, Alan Finn, I had previously worked at a company called Wordstream in Boston, a digital marketing agency that we worked at back then, was the co-founder. So I had some synergy back then. Luke Bonner, obviously, he's our CEO and our founder. I had been familiar with Luke and him and his brother, Matt Bonner, obviously had played in the league, very familiar with them. At the time, was really, really busy in terms of with everything I was doing out there, kind of like the marketing and endorsement side with the clients I was working with. Kind of rushed it off. Hey, I'm out here in Arizona doing my thing. COVID was underway. I already had a full-time job, so I was pretty much like, hey, I can't bring this on as of now.
Hold on real quick. So you had a full-time job, then you were handling management for Alonzo Trier, and then this doing the opportunity. And you still have a full-time job.
Correct.
Mad respect.
I like to grind. I like to work. I think, how I look at it is obviously passion. What I truly, truly love has always been, how can I empower the athletes around me? Because I've grown up with them. I've seen, athletes get exploited. And, instead of talking about it, how can I be actually a catalyst for change? How can I look at myself in the mirror and know I'm making a difference for the next kid that looks like my brother and all his teammates that might not have had somebody that had experience in the sports world that genuinely cares about them more than a dollar. So eventually I get back to Boston, things slow down a bit. Mo calls me again. I'm walking in the city. I figure, hey, maybe he's in the city. He FaceTimes me, brings up Power Forward again. He said, I need you to go meet with Luke and Alan. I said, all right, I got you. Let me take a look at what they're going at. And that was when an article dropped in Dime Magazine, and that really spoke to what Power Forward was doing in terms of empowering athletes. So I said, okay, this does align perfectly with what obviously I'm truly, truly passionate about. Next thing I know, I'm out to dinner with Alan and Luke, and I joined the team, and then from there, sort of handling all the athlete relations type stuff from there. And, as of now, we're working with over 150 athletes between the NBA, WNBA, NCAA. We've got another Jersey guy on there. We did a launch with Javon Quinterly. First rounder comes soon. But started off there. And I think, one of our bigger projects that we had dropped off most recently was actually with a collab between a few brands. Terence Mann, good friend of mine, from the Boston area, Lowell, Mass. I've known him for some time. Was able to bring him in. He's got a really, really strong background of women around him. He has a stylist that's a woman, Mary Francis, one of the best in the business. His mom, obviously, for all of us that don't know, coaches in the WNBA, coached at URI, first Black coach there, and for women's basketball. And then we paired them with Kelsey Trainer and Tivoli Audio, which is also a digital electronics company here in Boston. And we launched their Invest Pay Hire collab campaign. We dropped a custom hoodie as well as a speaker with Tivoli Audio with their signatures, all customized out with the Invest in Women, Pay Women, Hire Women. Did really, really well. So I was pretty excited about that as of late.
No, I love that, and like you guys are killing it with that at least that recent launch. I've been seeing it. So let's talk about it. What makes a good athlete partnership collaboration? Because you just spoke about that one, but a lot of athletes are looking, well, how did they get this brand deal, or like how come they're getting endorsements, or like what makes a good athlete partnership? As you've done it for multiple athletes, you've seen it, you've lived it. You're in an advisory role as athlete relations. So for the people that are like, with the notepad, like me, what makes an athlete, partnership go well?
Authenticity. A
That,
lot of
that
guys,
simple.
there's authenticity. Does this really align with what you truly believe in? Does this reflect who you are? And I think as of now, fans, everyone out there, consumers have so much access to our athletes now, whether you follow them on their Snapchats, whether you follow them on Instagram, their Twitters, you constantly know what these guys are doing, and people will start to kind of figure out, hey, this is true things that this player is interested in. And also, further than that, if you're an athlete, my advice is everyone doesn't know everything about you. If there's certain things that you're interested in, if you love gaming, don't just game, let people know that you game. You're also going to bring in a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of consumers that love gaming.
Yeah.
So really put it out there, use your social media platforms. I'm not saying that you have to go out and spam your timelines and, look to seek out different deals, but be who you are, authentically, and the deals will come. Make sure that I always say, make sure that you just don't accept the check because it's X, Y, and Z if it really doesn't stand for who you are. Make sure you're aligning yourself with brands that do stand for who you are. Show off exactly what you're about. Every athlete, obviously, you are one yourself. You're more than just an athlete. Not to cut off uninterrupted, but really be yourself. You're a person. Show it out there. Let people know exactly what you're about. And I think if you project it out there, what you project will come back to you. So really, just be authentic in terms of what you're looking for. Put yourself out there a little bit. You might feel a little bit silly at first, but it'll catch some wind, and then from there, the ceiling is kind of endless.
I love that, because you're saying athletes just be themselves, because there's a niche for that. Like, obviously you're an athlete, people are going to support you because you're playing a sport that they love, or you represent the team, but outside of that, they want to know. And obviously, keep some things private if that's what you want to do, but other things, be open and authentic about that. So what would be your like playbook to, leverage empowerment, as an athlete? We talked about, what makes a brand deal pop, being authentic, but in terms of like, how can we leverage our careers, our platform as athletes?
In what sense?
In what sense? In the sense of just in general, like how do I leverage the most out of, how do I squeeze the most out of my career as an athlete? A lot of times people at sports use them, like you play, you're done, you get cut, you're done. But how can I say I play, I came, I saw, and I squeezed everything out of this sport?
Network and know what you're worth. So it's kind of two-pronged.
You in these quick like phrases, man. I gotta write this down. Okay.
So the first part is networking. Obviously, every game that you're at, everywhere that you're going, whatever city you're in, I can guarantee you the people that can cut you into deals, bring you into business deals, introduce you to their friends who might be execs at other companies. Those are all the people that are sitting courtside, that see you, love you, bring in their kids, might be spending thousands of dollars to come watch you. Shake hands, be yourself, talk to these people. I'm not saying that you need to sell anything to them. Just be yourself, be as open as you possibly can, and realize your window. That window is always not going to be open. Everyone's not going to love Julian Aiken once I retire. Use that clout that you have and that attention that you have to get what you want. So if you're someone that wants to get into real estate, great. You play for the Los Angeles Clippers, Put it out there. You could literally put out a post saying, hey, looking to get into real estate in LA. I guarantee you that will come up. Someone that I saw do that, Thomas Bryant. Next thing you know, boom, he's on Selling Sunset on Netflix. Project it.
That's how it happened?
He had interest in he had interest in real estate.
Yeah.
Put it out there that he was looking for a house. Next thing you know, I see him on Selling Sunset.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you never know. Like, you never know. So you closed mouths don't get fed. So I really love that advice. You know, our network as athletes, I feel like it's untapped because we don't know how big it truly is. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So let's get back into power forward. Obviously, you're leading the athlete relations department. Can we talk about like what you guys' plans for the new year?
So plans
you
for the
can't
new
talk
year.
about everything. Yeah, you can't talk about everything, but what you're able to share.
Yeah, so I mean, what we're able to share is we're definitely tying all of our different drops and athletes to a larger mission. I think we definitely hinted at it, with the Terence Mann drop. We connected obviously a Lowell Boys and Girls Club, but we're really, really focusing. I think something that we've seen in working with our athletes is empowering women and our female athletes. It's underprivileged, obviously I think they're taken for granted. They're underpaid severely in almost every sport. Obviously, the WNBA, as of today, raised $75 million, which is huge for them. But we've got some plans to shake up some things in women's sports and want to continue to tie, all of the athletes on our roster to be able to project themselves, but at the same time, really align athletes that are both on our platform as of now, and a couple other ones that we have in the woodworks that are a couple bigger guys and ladies that we'll be announcing in terms of kind of like a bigger partnership and rollout that we're doing that should drop in early Q2.
All right. Yeah, we definitely tapped in for that. So talk about it from the standpoint of like, offline, we talked about, some athletes have like their own marketing divisions. They have like a whole merch line where it's handled in-house. They got a warehouse to handle inventory. Why should every athlete have a merch apparel line or a service like Power Forward?
Yeah, so with us, I mean, everyone talks about the 1%, the Kevin Durant's, the Kyrie Irvings, things of that nature. Those are guys that, at their will have teams around them that are completely dedicated to get everything that they want done. But then there's the 99% of athletes, and those athletes also have fans. They also have supporters, whether they're in college and it's people in the university or the town that they're playing in, or if it's, the 8th, 9th guy on the bench, sitting on an NBA team, or, a starting point guard for a WNBA team. What we do here at Power Forward is we're a holistic solution. And when I say that, we handle everything from the top down. We handle manufacturing, we handle customer service, we handle the branding and designs. So really a holistic solution for you and kind of stand up your shop and your merch line. And I think the value in doing so is, again, it ties back to your moment where you can really profit and build your brand off. You might only have one game where you play on national TV for some of these athletes, and you might have a really, really strong moment where people say, hey, Amobi crushed it that game. They're going to go with what are they going to do nowadays? They're going to look you up on Instagram. They're going to look you up on Twitter, and they're going to Google you. Who knows? If we can at least if 1 million people do that and you get 10% of them, you want to be able to have some merch out there to obviously reflect your brand. And I think what we have learned with that brand, be as creative and be yourself as possible. You might not just want to just throw your number on there. Tell these people a little bit about, yourself, things of that nature. We've got a couple, athletes on the platform that speak to, overall just like mental health that have kind of grown their brands through that and being open about talking about what that means to them. So I think it's a really, really good outlet for athletes to be able to, number one, take advantage of the moments that happen, because when they come, they go quicker. So you want to be able to monetize off everything that you do when those times do happen. At the same time, you also want to align yourself with the brand or a larger movement that's going to outlast your career. Great career in most sports nowadays. In the NFL, it's 3 years on average. You want to make sure that you can tie yourself to a larger movement. So when, your knee goes out or, you happen to just kind of progressively move on, that people are going to remember you to something that's going to outlast you on the field, basketball court, whatever it may be.
Most definitely. And I think just like a simple solution where it handles everything from a holistic standpoint, you don't have to worry about like kind of the inventory issues or like mailing packages and different things like that.
We do it all.
Yeah. And like you said, when it comes to merch, it's something simple that people can support you. People love to support people that they feel like they get along with or people they feel like they can relate to. And merch is an easy way for you guys to do that. whether, we're not saying you have to be the next Dolce and Gabbana or anything like that, but if you have something that could fit your niche, something that they can have and like see as a connection to you, it's a game changer. So with that being said, where do you see like athletes now are like looking into the influencer economy? Like, where do you see that going moving forward? Obviously with merch, with Web3, NFT, all that stuff. You see it continue to climb, or is it just, a few people thinking they know more than the rest of us?
I think there's a couple of different ways that it can go. I think Web3 is going to change the influencer market a ton. And when I say that, I think in Web2, for all those that don't know, you can consider Web2 your Instagrams, your Twitters, whatever social media handles that people are using or platforms nowadays. I think the influencer market on there has gotten very saturated in terms of when people see products promoted or different brand deals on there, a lot of those times they don't really reflect what the player is. And I think you can see, in nowadays world, you can kind of see through it that it's just a brand deal, might be a cash grab and things of that nature. I think the Web3 community, especially for the early adopters as of now, they're looking for the authenticity. Does this athlete actually align with what this NFT project may be? Does this athlete actually align with, this DAO and what they're looking to achieve? So I think there's going to be a shift in authenticity. I think also the good thing about Web3 is a lot of athletes are now going to really be able to own their audiences. Not going to have to say, if Instagram goes down, I can no longer promote my products and things of that nature. I think it's really going to change influencers from influencers to owners. And obviously their most remnant asset is their fan base. And as of now, they really haven't been able to own it. So I do think a lot of players in time, obviously there's definitely a technical hurdle for a lot of people that scares it away because crypto is definitely crypto. But I do think in time, athletes will really be able to own their audiences a lot more. And at the same time, for example, if LeBron James was to go and sign something nowadays, it's gone. He could sign something, sell it for, however much, $1 million for him, and then he'll never get anything on the secondary sales. But now if LeBron James drops an NFT, every time that is sold, 5, 10%, whatever the royalty fee is, I think that we'll really start to see a lot of athletes do that with, whatever might be momentous and really, really valuable that they can serve, whatever utility they want to serve. I think we'll see a lot of athletes start to utilize that as they can continue to get profits. As of now, I'm all for anytime an athlete does anything, they need to be compensated in full. If not, don't do it. They're going to be able to continue to obviously make money off that secondary sale and also sell, their time as a utility or experiences that they can provide that fans want.
That's what it's all about. So you've talked about, I love how you talked about empowerment and that you feel like every athlete needs to be compensated because obviously it's a Frugal Athlete podcast. So we got to talk about money. You've seen athletes in the NBA from when they were 13 years old to when they're signing their second deals. And everyone knows if you make it to your second deal, you've done fairly well. If you make it professional, matter of fact, you make a collegiate level, you've done well. But from the standpoint of, my question is, what are some money principles that are applied to the people that have been successful versus the people that have unfortunately not? And we're not asking you to call out any names or anything like that, but just talk about some principles.
Living below your means. Yeah, I think one thing that I always like to kind of point out to guys is, okay, if you're making $10 million this year, let's not look at the $10 million. Let's look at it as if you're going to live the next 50 years. Let's divide 10 million by 50. That's what you're actually getting paid, because I can work till I'm 60, sit on a computer. I can walk in and out of meetings. I could go in there in a wheelchair if needed, but you only have until your body gives out. So we want to make sure that we're under the understanding that what you're getting paid has to last. Don't look at it as this year, you can only play another 8 years. So really living below your means and kind of stretching it out. So if you're making whatever you're making this year, divide that by how many years you plan to live. None of us are planning, obviously none of us might see tomorrow. Tomorrow is never promised, but taking a look at things like that. Secondly, taking advice from people with money. And this is a very, very hard one.
I like that one.
a lot of, even myself, a lot of the athletes that I've grown up with and have seen grown, don't come from amazing situations where our parents have tons of investments, financial advisors that they trust,
Mm.
financial strategies, what to do when you make a certain amount of money. So make sure that you can find trusted resources around you that have money that are going to invest with you. If people will tell you to invest in something, they want you to throw 100 grand in there, make sure every time that they might be throwing 200 grand in there. Otherwise, keep your hands off. Any investment that great that someone wants you to put your money into, if it's that great, they're going to put their own money into. And that's a principle that I hold as well. I'm a heavy investor, between the stock market, some private companies, and real estate. Any advice or anything that I will bring to any of my players, I'm not personally going to invest in it. I won't even bring it to them.
That's a great piece of advice, because it's something I've got from a mentor as well. It's like, if you got to ask who the deal is coming from and why it's coming to me, and then the first question should be like, okay, so if it's so great, how come you're not investing in it? So I'm supposed to take the fall? What does that entail? So those are good, initial questions. Obviously, once you get that past that final stage, you consult with your financial team, look at the numbers, doing different things like that. But just like those initial flag questions to make sure it gets past the gate before you actually sign are very important. So with that being said, what like resources or what things that you think athletes should implement to like just be smarter around their finances?
Talk about it with their teammates. I think the best thing, nowadays, especially like in the NBA, WNBA, NFL, like KD is one guy, that I was lucky enough to meet and form a friendship with through Alonzo, that people look at him as the pinnacle. And that's someone that really, 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 really knows his value. And, in my opinion, I can see him one day becoming a venture firm himself and be battling.
Yeah,
or
they already are, to be honest. Like the way
no, I'm talking about in Silicon Valley.
Oh, that's a good shout. Yeah.
Top 5, top 10, because it's like you see a lot of these VC firms now pulling different athletes into strategic deals. Who better knows to talk to them than someone that's obviously been in their seat and has had success that we've never seen? Michael Jordan has had success with his brand, but in terms of private investments, venture, I mean, just from the articles that I see, it's always something new. And it's like, ask him. You're in the locker room with him. Ask him how he did it. Don't be afraid to talk about finances, whether you're a guy making 400K on the two-way or you're a guy on a max contract. Ask those around you that you aspire to be like. They'll kick you game. So I think a big thing is literally just asking those around you and being a little bit vulnerable. Let people know that you don't know what you're doing, because at some point they were also 18, 19 years old and didn't know what they were doing too.
That's a good combo. You got to be humble and vulnerable and genuinely curious. I think that's like the 3-step strategy for me personally when it comes to like learning more about finances, learning more about anything, to be honest. But like you said, you may not have the funds to get into the same deals like a Kevin Durant or LeBron James, but there's opportunity at every level, and the more you know, the better prepared you will be for those opportunities.
1000%. 1000%. The resources are available. It's really just about putting yourself out there. Same thing as networking, same thing as knowing your worth. The easiest way is to ask people that have been in your position before and then go from there.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of some more questions around, this empowerment piece, because as athletes, that is our leverage. That is the thing that we can hold on to, long after our careers are over. Obviously, with NIL, taking shape, you guys are doing work with the collegiate athletes at that level. What are some things that they need to look out for, things that they can do to help set them up for when they go pro, or even if they don't go pro, they've had the opportunity of those 4 to 5 years to kind of maximize their opportunity?
1000%. I think what I think out around that begins, I would say nowadays at 14, 15. And this goes for athletes as well as their parents. As in business, as in life, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And being very set in terms of knowing your value. If you're at a university and you see the crowds filled up and every game is packed and you're the star player, know what your value is. Know where what type of companies and what type of deals other people in the country are getting. Take a look at, hey, are they partnered with an agency? Where are these deals being sourced from? do I fit into that type of model? The information is readily available. People typically don't look. Take a look at different markets and see exactly kind of different comparables of what's going on. Come back with your team. It could be your mom or dad. Literally have them go out and say, hey, what are other people getting around the country that look like me in the same conference? And figure out how did they essentially use their leverage to cut deals or use their name, image, and likeness to get into certain deals. So I think it's really about knowing your value, but at the same time, use those AAU coaches that are around you. Use everyone that's around you, high school coaches. Everyone now has got a big bro, knows somebody in the league, has that relationship. Be open to ask them, hey, I'm looking for a couple of NIL deals. Where's the best place to start? Do you have anyone that I can talk to? Because now college guys can also have representation. So aligning yourself with people that have done it before is probably, I would say, your best move. But it really comes down to knowing your value, knowing, hey, if I have a great game, yes, great. I need to focus on the sport. I'm going to lock in here, but have somebody on your team that's readily available. Hey, boom, you had a great game. We're going to the SEC championship. We're going to the ACC championship. Let's call every business in town that we know people are constantly frequenting. Maybe you'll go there and sign, a couple autographs, things of that nature. Really just get creative with it in terms of where you think your value is and what you're comfortable with. And the reason being is what brand you start in college is obviously going to be the brand that you build upon. If you go to the NBA, you go to the WNBA, NFL, whatever it may be, set the groundwork for who you are and continue to build off that.
I love that. I think, for anyone listening, it's all about setting that foundation. If you have a strong foundation, you'll be able to expand, scale, and reach new heights that you never thought you'd reach. And, by building a good team, knowing your value, all the different principles that Julian has mentioned, you can really, build a wonderful thing. And it doesn't have to be, a Fortune 100 Amazon type of company to be successful. That's the wonderful thing about business is that you can be a hundredth, a thousandth, and still do very well. Whereas, as athletes, if you're not one of the top dogs, you'll be sitting here doing a podcast with Amobi and Julien. So, but with that being said, Julien, I really want to appreciate you. I really want to thank you for your time. Real quick, you see a lot of athletes. You work in the athlete relations. You're consistently, doing different things. You're the young version. You're the young William Wesley, the facilitator. Top 5. You're starting 5 athlete brand empowerment brands. Like 5 athletes that you think are like, yo, if I'm just starting out, these are the athletes I need to model my game after from a personal empowerment, brand, money management standpoint.
Money management or brand overall?
Overall, like these are the roadmaps you need to follow.
Kevin Durant, 35 Ventures, hands down number 1 pinnacle. Obviously, a lot of doors have been opened by that God-gifted talent, but I like to say he's the greatest player to ever live, but he is the pinnacle.
Wait, KD? We have to talk offline about that. Sorry.
I would say Kevin Durant is the greatest player of all time, both on and off the court. And, with what he's been doing in his career so far, I expect him to be monetarily the highest just due to his nature and the him and Rich's his brand is something that I think doesn't get enough attention. That's really going to shock a lot of people when they're done. Secondly, from there, LeBron James. Him and Maverick Carter. I was lucky enough to meet Maverick Carter at HBS with Anita Elbers. It was a really special day to me. I actually had gone there and got caught up with them for 5 hours. But as soon as I got out of my car, I saw 3 black cars pull up. Maverick Carter, someone I looked up to for so long. I saw him come out the car. I said, oh my God, God's been listening to these prayers. So I think what they've done is absolutely amazing. He's put his whole team on. He's turned them from friends to business executives and moguls. So seeing that is absolutely amazing in terms of what they've been able to do, in terms of making him a billionaire, and also at the same time, all of his people now are in position to really dominate that game. Following that, Steph Curry is definitely up there. Steph Curry, the brand that he's built with Under Armour as well as his venture arm is extremely, extremely impressive. Yeah. I gotta put Sue Bird up there. I think Sue Bird is, the brand that she has obviously created on the court has been really, really strong just through obviously her play and just her God level talent as well. So I would put her there, and I definitely look forward to seeing now that she's in her last season, how much domination, off the court that she's going to have.
Mhm.
We're going to land her a huge win with power forward when we get our
most
big
definitely.
exit. And then Kyrie Irving, obviously with Kyrie, I think, what he stands for both on and off the court is amazing. And he's a really good representation of not necessarily just keeping his brand strictly to basketball and not talking out. He speaks what he believes in. He cares about people and has a voice for a lot of people that don't. So in terms of, kind of just overall a brand and a really, really great person that has used his brand to kind of expand outside of sports, I think he's definitely got to be up there. And obviously his kicks are fire.
Yeah, I love that. And, for anyone that may say, these are all superstars, the fact that you can take the principles and apply it to your own situation is the key thing I want you guys to take away from Julian's top five. Each athlete that he said is doing amazing things, obviously on the court, but off the court as well. And it's something that anyone can do at their own level. All you got to do is start.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, it was good.
What this is obviously a huge topic. Your top 5 best dressed NBA athletes right now off the top. I need them.
Oh, best dressed. Well, I will, because this is a Frugal Athlete podcast, so we're going to try to spin it from the standpoint of how to be efficient. So best dressed, best dressed is, there's a lot of money in athlete fashion. So athletes, if you're passionate about your fashion, showcase yourself. I would say Kellen DaCosta, he's a soccer player, MLS, just got traded to LAFCs with the youth national team. With the U.S. men's national team.
Gotcha.
Russell Westbrook, even though I'm not a fan of his style, the fact that he's been able to, showcase himself is good. OBJ, obviously, that's kind of it's his thing. LeBron James, I don't know if he has a stylist or what, but everyone's looking forward to what he's rocking. And then in terms of who's the fifth? I don't know, because I don't really know the WNBA that well, but I think it's Aja Wilson or T. Cooper.
Aja Wilson.
Yeah, she swagged out. So that's my top 5. And the fact that they've been able to use their fashion sense and their love for fashion to create opportunities from a money standpoint, that's what brings me. I'm not a fashion guy. I'm simple, minimalist. But if I was able to do that, I think it's something that's great. But Julian, I want to thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, _J_Aiken2 on Twitter and Instagram. I'll redo that. We'll put that out. You can find me on Twitter at J_Aiken2. Same thing as Instagram as well as LinkedIn. Like to obviously keep my professional side and personal side in 2 separate worlds. But you can find me there. Always open to meet new people. That's obviously how we met. Amobi is also on Power Forward. So we'll have some frugal athlete podcast gear. I know he's handling it in-house right now. We're gonna bring that over to us as well.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time, and we're definitely gonna have his information in the show notes, so make sure you tap in with him. He's doing a lot of amazing stuff, all about athlete empowerment. So if you're an athlete or you're a key stakeholder that works with athletes, I suggest you tap inwardly. Thank you guys so much, and we'll definitely tune in soon. All right, Julian.